I was reading from my copy of Rural Rides with William Cobbett, who was making a trip around the countryside back in the early 1800s. And he writes prolifically about what he sees. He was a champion for the ordinary everyday man, the labourer in the street, the farmer and the labourer. Not the big farmers who had a lot of money, who wasn't paying a fair wage. And he also comments and notices the mushrooming, as he calls it, the mushrooming of the cities. He didn't like that at all. He thought people should be in the rural countryside, living a jolly life, not working too hard, but working honestly, as he hopefully was giving he had a farm, and I think he was trying to put over that he was teaching or treating his labourers as well as he could, and was astounded that others were not treated so well. Anyway, so Rural Ride's a great read if you've never read it. William Cobbett, a great man. And I was reading this, and I want to read this to you, just this little bit here. So he's riding into Hampshire on his horse, going about making notes and talking to people as he did, and collecting up what the country was like. And he says here, we came through a village called Woodcott and another called Binley. I never saw any inhabited place more recluse than these. Yet into these the all-searching eye of the taxing thing reaches. Its excise man can tell what it is doing even in the little odd corner of Binley. For even there I saw over the door of a place not half as good as the place in which my fowls roost, licensed to deal in tea and tobacco. Poor half-starved wretches of Binley, the hand of taxation, the collection for the censures and pensions must fix its nails even into them, who really appeared too miserable to be called by the name of people. Yet there was one whom the taxing thing had licensed, God licensed, to serve out cat lap to these wretched creatures. And our impudent and ignorant newspaper scribes talk of the degraded state of the people of Spain. So he compares it to people of Spain, or the newspaper. The licensed to deal in tea and tobacco. And he goes on, as is his style. It is quite amusing. But it is interesting. There in the middle of nowhere, doing no harm to anyone, the excise man had the right to go in and claim the tax on tea and tobacco. And later on he talks, you still got to spend money just to chew on a little bit of tobacco. You've got to get permission from the thing, the government, the imposition. And here we are, years later, still paying a tax on all sorts of those things in which the government are making the money, despite the fact that the government are trying to persuade people not to smoke. And I wonder why that is. I've spoken about that before. Maybe the nicotine in the tobacco itself is quite useful against a certain medical intervention that has been proving not as good as everybody first thought. But anyway, this imposition of tax, we have something called value added tax, do we not, when we went into the EU? But we're not in the EU anymore. We left. That's what Brexit was about, wasn't it? Albeit perhaps only in name. But we did leave. So why have we still got value added tax? And excuse me, where's the value of adding any tax to anything? Seeing as the government themselves, it would seem, can print the money because they're in collusions or cahoot with that corporation called Bank of England, which is in and of itself a corporation and really nothing to do with the government. But the government could print, or rather mint, its own coins. Perhaps if it was to mint its own coins rather than rely on Bank of England, a PLC or a limited company, a corporation, we wouldn't have to deal with fiat currency. But that's another argument. Why are we paying any tax whatsoever. When you think how much tax is on so many products, I go and fill my van up with diesel, how much of that is actually the cost of the diesel and how much of that is the cost of tax? We don't need to be paying tax. I understand, and I don't know how true this is, and maybe somebody can verify this, but I've been told that actually you can write to your employee, if you are employed, and say, actually, do you know what, I'd rather you didn't deal and take at source from my income, from my salary, the tax that is due. I will do that, thank you very much. I will make the calculations and I will send in, should I desire to send it in, should I feel that it's necessary to send it in, the tax that I have earned. I guess it depends if you're working for a family-run firm or indeed a corporation. Perhaps the finance department won't like it if you tap on the door very gingerly and say, excuse me, I just want you to pay me what I am earning here, what my wages are, and I will deal with the tax. Why, again, have we let other people do everything for us when we could check whether that is correct, and maybe withhold if we felt that the government, for example, is not doing what they ought to be doing, breaking the promises of their manifesto, the thing that if people believe in voting, and voting even worked, believing that that's the mandate that the government have, if they break all their promises, then maybe we shouldn't be paying them with our taxes. Would it be possible, I wonder, to walk into a garage and say, I've got £50 worth of diesel in my tank, but please will you deduct the tax from that and I will pay it myself when I'm jolly well ready? Could we do that? Could we do that with all the other things that we buy and just say, I'll pay what it's worth, but I will not pay the tax? For if the government is not honouring what it promises, if it's lying to us, if it's forcing things on us that we don't want, if it's breaking the law, if it's corrupt, if it's not actually a body of people there representing the people, if it is a corporation registered on Dun & Bradstreet or on Companies House, if it is trading for profit only, if it's in cahoots with the judges and the courts and the councils and the police, if it's there to extract our lifeblood, our money, our energy, if it isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing, if it's not fit for purpose, maybe we shouldn't be paying any of those taxes. Maybe taxes have now become to the point where we can say, actually, what are you doing with this money? Why are you sending this money abroad? Why is it going towards wars or battles to maim people, men, women and children, innocent people? Why are you even in that theatre of war? It's all theatre. It's all acts and statutes and made up nonsense. Why perhaps do we even bother with a government if they are not governing in the way that we have asked them to do? They could set up a much smaller thing. We could have people who will give us some guidance on how to live our life and administer certain things. We don't need governments to be telling us how to live our lives, forcing, say, net zero agendas on us if we happen to disagree with the so-called science of man-made global warming, if we happen to disagree with having fluoride pushed into the water, if we happen to disagree that digital IDs and surveillance technology is necessary, if we happen to disagree with a plethora of their policies, which at the end of the day really have nothing to do with us whatsoever, in the fact that we are living men and women who are going about our business trying to do the best we can for one another, and these moronic people in their suits, slick and speaking word salad, have nothing to do with us whatsoever. So yes, Even back then, in 1825, William Cobbett riding around and ending up in Binley, noticing that above the door, there it was, those poor wretches, starving wretches, still had to put up permission. Please, sir, can we have permission so that we can deal in tea and tobacco? Tea, a national drink that people enjoyed. Tobacco, some pleasure that gave people when they could smoke their pipes or chew on it outside a pub as they put the world to rights, quaffing their beers. Surely it has come to a point now when we say those things which are part of our life, that are integral to our enjoyment, that are essential to our living, those things no longer should be taxed, should have any kind of levy, that the government should not get its greedy fingers on. Surely now is the time that we turn our back on these greedy people and say, you've had it. It's over. Thank you very much. You've proved actually in the end to be worthless, incapable, unable to run a party in a paper bag, as they say. That from now on, we shun you, we will not pay you, we will not give you 1 penny, for you have proved yourselves unworthy of the task. What do you think?